Closer to home, Britain's human rights questions have always centred on Northern Ireland. The Good Friday Agreement might have put an end to virtually all the bombings and terrorism, but violence and intimidation continue. This year, at least 200 people have been beaten or shot for what the men of violence see as crimes. On the day David Trimble and John Hume received the Nobel Peace Prize, Oliver King has been talking to some of the forgotten victims of the Troubles.
The right to life, liberty, security. The right to religion, speech, property, even to the marriage of your choice. The right to peaceful assembly. The presumption of innocence. The right to a fair trial. Freedom of movement. The right to a nationality or to change it. Reading the Declaration of Human Rights, it's difficult to see which articles haven't been infringed in the last 30 years in Northern Ireland. And despite the Good Friday Agreement, the abuses are getting worse. November saw a huge increase in terrorist beatings, kneecappings and intimidation.
They took away his human rights when they murdered him, and they took away my human rights whenever they murdered my son and took him from me. He was only 33 years of age.
Despite their ceasefire, the IRA murdered Maureen Kearney's son in July. After a pub fight with an IRA member, Andy knew he was in trouble.
His eldest girl, she's 7.5, and they were writing out their list for Santa. She says, "Mommy, I'll not take any presents. Would Santa just bring me back my daddy?" So, how do you answer children like that, you know? How do you answer children?
A lifelong Republican herself, Maureen knows exactly who killed Andy. So she went round to the IRA and demanded answers.
From the command staff, I wanted to know, was Andrew's murder sanctioned? And they said his shooting was sanctioned. They didn't say it was a kneecapping gone wrong, but they, you know, they're trying to make out it was that. And it was sanctioned by the OC of the Belfast Brigade.
His killers ripped out the phone and destroyed the lift, which forced Andy's partner to run 16 flights of stairs to find help. It was too late.
I wanted to know why it took so many of them to go in to take him out. And they said, well, he was able to handle himself. And if we'd sent 2 or 3 in, which we would usually do for a kneecapping, he would have knocked 2 out and threw the other one over the balcony. And I says, well, if you hadn't held the gun at a 2-week-old baby's head and a young girl just having given birth to that 2-week-old baby, he'd have threw you all over the balcony. And so he would.
Ian, not his real name, didn't want to be identified for fear of more retaliation from the loyalists who kneecapped him. Again, the incident took place since Good Friday.
I was took to the side of the social club, put to the ground, shot through the legs. Lying there, they ran off. Blood was running everywhere. It took 10 minutes for the ambulance to come. In hospital, I was in agony and pain. We don't have human rights here in Northern Ireland.
What do you mean by that?
The paramilitaries take them away. They decide what your rights are, or they try to.
There have been 458 incidents this year by paramilitaries whose political representatives are sitting in Stormont, say families against intimidation and terror. It's time, Fate says, the British government set a date after which any incident is classified as breaking the ceasefire. At the moment, the government is turning a blind eye to human rights abuses.
The Good Friday Agreement says that everybody within the process must be committed to non-violent means. Now, as and from the 1st of January 1999, the British government should stand up and say, any more of this terrorist activity and you're out. Now, if they don't do that, then we're going into the new millennium, where it is an accepted practice by the British government in Northern Ireland that human rights abuses and civil rights abuses by terrorists are part of the process. And that is an incredible indictment on the British government.
As the murals here loudly proclaim, each community here in Northern Ireland feels its human rights have been infringed. But 50 years on since the Universal Declaration, the many victims of the Troubles here in Northern Ireland are still waiting to enjoy those human rights in full. Oliver King, Powerhouse in Belfast.
I'm joined now by the Liberal Democrat Northern Ireland spokesman, Lembit Opik.